This is the last video for this lesson, and in this lesson we're going to take a look at an equation that we can use to calculate the amount of money that we can have in an account after we invest a certain amount of money initially at a certain rate for a certain time in an account that continuously compounds interest. Okay, and that's really important. This can only be used for interest that is compounded continuously. So let's take a look at how we can use this equation, which you should write in your notes. You should pause the video and write this in your notes. But let's look at how we can use this equation to solve problem number 1 and problem number 2. So first off, it says, suppose you won a contest at the start of 5th grade that deposited $3,000 in an account that pays 5% annual interest compounded continuously. So this word compounded continuously tells us that we can use this equation right here to help us calculate the amount in our account after the time period specified. So the two important numbers in this sentence are a principal. The initial amount of $3,000 that we won is going to be deposited in that account, and that account pays 5% annual interest. How much money will you have in the account when you enter high school 4 years later? So there's our time frame. Those are the three things that we absolutely need to use this function: the initial amount, the interest rate, and the time invested. So let's go ahead and put our numbers in our formula. The amount that we're going to have in the account after, okay, it's not T, it is 4 years. After 4 years is going to be our initial amount, our principal, which is $3,000, times our natural number raised to the power of our percentage rate, our interest rate, as a decimal, multiplied by the number of years it's going to stay in the account. On your calculator, you have a button that looks like e to the x. You should use this to calculate this amount, and if you plug it into your calculator, you should get approximately 1.2214. And when you multiply this all out, you are going to get $3,664, and I'm going to go ahead and round it to the nearest dollars and get rid of my pennies. But it's $3,664 that you will have after 4 years. So how much interest did you really earn in those 4 years? If you started off with $3,000 and you ended up with $3,664, you earned $664 in interest. So now let's take a look at problem number 2. How much money would you have to invest if you needed $8,000 to attend college in 6 years? So here, one of the most important numbers here is $8,000. And they're not asking you or telling you how much you invested. They're asking you to figure out how much you invested. How much was this initial amount that you invested? So that $8,000 is the amount here after the time has elapsed. So $8,000 is going to equal this part here. We don't know what our principal is, so I'm going to write P here. But it says 6 years is our time if you invested in an account that paid 7.8% interest. So we would have interest rate as a decimal is 0.078, and we're going to multiply that by 6 years. So when we do this calculation, we're going to get $8,000, and e raised to this power is going to equal 1.5968. I rounded it to 4 decimal places, and then we're going to have to divide both sides by 1.5968 in order to figure out what we would need to invest initially to have $8,000 in 6 years for college. So when we calculate that on our calculator, I'm not asking you to do this in your head or on paper, you would get, let's see, and it doesn't tell us what what we need to round it to. So we'll just go ahead and round it to the nearest penny. $5,010.03 is what you would have to invest to have $8,000 in 6 years at 7.8% interest.